But if you're here with us, it is time to start. So I would like to take a second to introduce my amazing friend and colleague, Karen Peiser. So Karen has been involved in ESL ministry for, Karen, how many years now?
A lot 23 or 24, as long as you have.
Okay, so we've been in the field an equal number of years. Karen is our lead text trainer and handles a lot of administrative details for Literacy Connexus text training. She was my mentor when I joined Literacy Connexus, and she taught me to be a text trainer, which I am very, very grateful for. And she is just an amazing teacher, and amazing woman. And I'm so happy that she's here today to talk with you about teaching via Zoom versus in person. Before I turn it over to her, I just want to say I have a couple students training to be English teachers who have worked in Karen's classroom on Zoom. So they live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and Karen is in San Angelo, and they've been able to have her as a teaching mentor because Karen's running her classes on Zoom. So I know that Karen is doing great work on Zoom. I hear it from my students, and now I'm going to turn the floor over to her. Karen, it's all yours.
Thank you, Cindy. Cindy is a remarkable text trainer. She's in charge of Dallas-Fort Worth now, so I'm moving on to other territories, but we love Cindy, and we're so glad that she's part of Literacy Connexus. So we will share my screen here. At first, I forgot to put it up. There's my contact information. I am the ESL coordinator for Literacy Connexus, and it's karenpeiser41@gmail.com. So if you have any questions or something and you want to get in touch with me, feel free to do that. Okay, in-person versus Zoom. The pandemic has sent us into Zoom land. I would have never, ever believed I would have ended up in Zoom land because I am a very, very people person. I like people. I like being with people. And if you look at that picture at the top, look at the engaging, the smiles, the faces. You don't always see that on Zoom, but they are there, believe it or not. And then you see all these faces down here on the screen. So I talked to a lot of people about if they're doing in-person classes or Zoom in the pandemic. Many have continued the in-person with masks and taking temperatures and being very careful in social distancing. And I really applaud them, and they're doing a great work, but many of us, my husband is not that well, and I'm protecting him, and I'm not, because I didn't want to get in crowds. My teachers felt that way too. We went to Zoom. And so I have both ends of the perspective. Well, we'll say yes or no, okay? Well, I believe that simple yes or no is not sufficient to answer our question today. Is the online learning interactive, allowing for opportunities for practice in all the areas of the language, including speaking? How many students are in an in-person class, and how many students are on an online class? These are all things that we really need to address. Also, there's differences in people. Some would respond better to the atmosphere and relationships of an in-person class, which might provide motivation. Others might prefer the online setting. It's a complicated issue, but both can certainly be done well. And my focus is the students, and we want to reach them, not only teach English to them, but we want to reach them spiritually. We want them to trust Jesus as their Savior that changed our lives. And so this is the important thing. How are we going to cause all this to happen when we're not having classes like in a pandemic? So Zoom classes, online learning can be as good or even better than in-person classroom learning with the right teacher. And I think this is the important thing in Zoom class. You just don't go on Zoom and all those faces are there and do your lesson. There is a lot of preparation, a lot of pictures you need to download, the same as for your in-person, but and you want to keep it up and bright because you think they're 2 hours online. When we have it in person, we have an hour of teaching. In our classes, we have 6 to 8 when we do in person. And the first hour is core curriculum, and then we break and we have refreshments and they get to see all the other students. We have 4 to 5 classes usually. They all get together in this huge room. We read the Bible or have a song or teach a Bible lesson. We pray, we ask for prayer requests. It's a social time. It's a time when they all get together and you see the smiles and others meeting others. And then in the second half, they go back and do their activities. So online learning allows you to be comfortable in your own home. Instead of you don't have to get up and go to class, get all your stuff together and go to your classes. You can meet people from your own target language country. You can improve on speaking, listening, reading, and writing all at the same time. And online learning makes education accessible to all. So when I started my Zoom class, it was amazing. I had a couple of young girls that came that were wives of husbands at Goodfellow Air Force Base. They told the other ones and other ones. It grew from 4 people up to, I have 35 registered. I had to go to 2 Zoom classes. I had to break it up, do it Tuesday and Wednesday night because everybody was referring to everybody. Now I have 2 from Colombia, 2 from Spain, 1 from England, 1 in Washington State, 3 in California, 1 in Florida, 1 in Virginia, and 1 now her husband got transferred to Alabama. So this is the wonderful thing, you know, that you can meet people from your target language countries or any country or any other state. Some students' learning style does not fit that of a full classroom. And you might notice that sometimes when you have an in-person classroom. Many find speaking out in front of their peers intimidating and limits their interaction. And I would not have believed this, but my students talk more and come out and say things that they never did in the in-person classroom. Very, very interesting. And especially if some people don't show up and you have 4 to 6, my goodness, they get chattering and talking. And I just would not have believed that, but it is possible on Zoom. Research recognized an important opportunity for foreign language students. Online platforms can connect with students easily in other countries. And Kathleen Yarbo, who's also one of our text trainers, she found the same thing in Houston. Some of her students, because of the pandemic, went back to China, went back to different places, and she was able to keep her classes going because of Zoom. To me, it's a reach. You get to reach out to all these people you would never have met before, just meeting there in church in San Angelo. I'm in San Angelo, Texas. I'm the director of ESL at Southland Baptist Church. And just think, probably 20 of all my students on Zoom, I would have never, ever met or had the opportunity to teach English and to share Christ with. Teaching ESL on, excuse me, teaching ESL online means that you can pop up all over the world. Although you aren't in a regular classroom, you still have the power to make an impact. And that's just sort of puts what I've just said before that. The ultimate showdown, you put together a bright smile with engaging activities, and you can teach in spite of disrupting pandemics or other incidents. And I'm thinking we're going to go back to in-person, but I'm keeping my Zoom class because I do not want to lose these wonderful students. So I think both works together in my case. I don't know how you feel, but I'd like you to join in a little bit of chat if you've been teaching on Zoom and what you think about it in your classes. And you can go ahead and speak out, just say your name and we'll recognize you, or put it in the chat. I don't see the chat. I guess I have to stop share, right? Okay, there's the chat. So if you want to put in the chat or you want to speak out, please give us some of your experiences in your Zoom classes and how you feel about it. Is anybody out there?
I'm here.
There are 17 people out there.
I'm here.
Did everybody take a break?
I'm here, Karen.
Okay, Angela.
I was going to say that I do, like I work in a public school, so we are 100% in person, but because of Zoom, we have the ability to collaborate with, I'm on like an international teaching dialogue with teachers from around the world, and we wouldn't be able to do that without Zoom. And it's just amazing the dynamics of learning, from people all over the place. We wouldn't have had that opportunity otherwise because it's just too difficult to meet in person. So I think it's fantastic.
Right. We have enough. They don't need to get a babysitter or take a lot of time away from their family, and they have access where they may not to in-person classes, distance transportation. And that's true. A lot of them, if they do, although we offer childcare because we do our ESL classes on Wednesdays when everything's going on at our church. They can come, they can have childcare for babies through teenagers. They can just come and let their kids go, and they're taken care of the whole 2 hours that they are there with us, which is a wonderful opportunity to do that. But if you're not in that position, that would work. And also Cindy says, whoops, I love teaching online, but you have to wait even longer for responses in chat because of typing time and unmuting time. That does take a little time. I'm sure, Cindy, you have a lot of students, but if you have like 4 to 6 or 8, they don't put it in the chat yet. I sort of do little higher beginners and low intermediates. Once in a while, I'll have them try out the chat. We do use the breakout rooms, which I think are wonderful for dialogues and things. And when I had Cindy's students helping me, it was wonderful because we could get like 2 or 3 breakout rooms going and a lot of personal things that we could do. Lori says it was effective when the students had parental support. I provided PowerPoint playlists, YouTubes. It was hilarious interacting with siblings, grandparents. Yeah, they'll bring their little kids, will come in and they'll wave. Yeah, it's a fun time. When we play games in class like Kahoot, their kids will often sign in the game. Yeah, I do bingo, and I like to send a bingo card to the kids as well, and they enter in when we do it. Great, Jeannie. it has also been really cool to use tech to engage students online. We all learn new tech, that's for sure, that has been around and had not been utilizing until we went online. Great, great, great input. Anybody else before we move on here? Okay, the physical classroom. This is a interacting classroom. Physical classroom pros. Many students don't have access to technology or have poor internet connection. And this is the problem that I have, because my higher level students, they did meet with their teacher in person at this. She's does weddings and things. She has this huge convention room that she uses, and they were able to hold classes. So we did hold our advanced classes there, but they did not even want to try Zoom, and they just didn't have the digital skills and sort of left them at a disadvantage. And that, I'm thinking when I go back, we'll have a little class on how to do Zoom and a little technology in case we get locked down again, hopefully not. And interactivity is the key to a learning environment. This is achieved in the physical classroom. It's very hard. You can interact on Zoom, but not in the physical classroom. Like Cindy was saying, like when you pair them off and they do that, you can't really get that many break rooms or anything to pair them off on Zoom, but interactivity is the key to a learning environment. Another teacher that I was talking with, she said, I like Zoom, but the pronunciation, which is an important part of ESL, is much better taught in person. And I'm sure Cindy can talk to this. The students can see your mouth and your expressions, and pronunciation is so much, it's so important, and it's better taught in person. And social interaction. Face-to-face learning is so important. To get the best out of their students, a teacher's role is to motivate, encourage, and supervise, which is difficult through Zoom. Students develop social skills in a physical environment, and that's why we have our time in between. We teach, and then we have this social gathering together with refreshments. They're more relaxed after they've been in, you know, an hour of learning, and then they're able just to relax, to talk with others. And many friendships are made during break time. We had a group of 3 or 4 in one of our classes that was second level, and they decided that they would get together and meet at a restaurant once a week. And they got together and made friendships. And you'll find that in San Angelo, if you get I had two Thai students, and all of a sudden they referred another Thai lady that's in town, and it's a whole network. They all get together and they meet with the Colombians, and the Colombians stick together, and those from Honduras. So many friendships are made during this break time, and interaction is important to learning, and it gives you time too to get to know all the students. If you're teaching just one class, you have those students. During this social time, you get to interact with all of them. And I think that's so important. That's very not successful on Zoom, but in the in-person classroom.
Your slideshow's not on.
It's not?
No.
Oh, shoot. Oh. You haven't seen it the whole time?
Since before we were talking about the games.
It's when you stop sharing to see the chat. It didn't come back.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, there we are. You can see that now.
Yes,
Yes,
thank you.
we can. Yes.
I apologize. from current slide. Okay, so give me your ideas. Join in the chat or go ahead and speak out about your experiences and how you feel about, and I'm sure there's a lot more pros that I didn't address. And I did that on purpose because I want people to engage and to talk about it. So.
I will relay the chat to you, Karen.
Okay, that'd be wonderful. So any of those out there that are doing in person and not doing Zoom, and you think that you have great ideas about teaching in person instead of Zoom?
Nothing showing up yet.
Jancy, what have you guys been doing? You're muted, Jancy.
We've been doing in person.
Okay.
Yeah. And I prefer the one-on-one in person,
Right.
but we haven't ventured out to Zoom yet.
That's okay. That's okay. So in your in person, are you doing social distancing? Did you do it all through the pandemic?
Yes, and we have a mask with a clear mask
Oh,
that we
good.
wear, and then we have the students have been wearing masks, and we do social distance, and I keep cleaning supplies, clean the tables, and all of that. You know, we've been
Right.
doing all that, yeah. But I prefer the one-on-one where they can see my mouth, like you were talking about earlier. The students we've been working with are beginners mostly, and now he's had one that's advanced, but mine have been beginners, and they need to see my mouth on forming the words.
Right.
And so we need the clear mask.
That's a wonderful idea. And I think most are doing it that way as well.
But I'm interested in learning about Zoom in case we do need to do it later, you know.
Right. You just have to bite the bullet and go for it. Join the Zoom, and there's a free one that you can just, but you're limited to an hour, then you have to pay more for the other. But it would be worth it just to try it. I'm just amazed of how much you can teach on Zoom.
Well, we taught last summer. I taught a Chinese student here at the house all summer. I don't know if I'll be teaching in the summer or not this year. It depends, on the students.
Right. And maybe you might try it and then have a Zoom class just in the summer.
Right.
If they're willing to do it.
I'm like you. I don't like to miss 3 months,
Right.
So thank you so much for doing this. It's really wonderful seeing you in person. Well, kind of in person.
I haven't seen you in years. Yeah, it is good. See, there is some good with Zoom, right?
Yes.
How about anyone else? There's a lot on here. There must be some thoughts from somebody.
You want to say something?
We are going to try some Zoom classes over the summer to avoid the summer slide. Glad to have these good ideas.
Right, right. And that's what I'm wondering if I'm going to do my Zoom classes over the summer, because I do have all these ones that are out of the country. Okay. We'll have question time afterwards. Okay, can you see my slideshow now?
Yes.
Okay. So there are pros and cons to life, right? As well as teaching ESL. Both ways of teaching have successful results, and both require different approaches and skill. Success takes a great deal of preparation and an understanding of the best practice. And I'm thinking that, you know, you can use the two. I've learned a lot from teaching online. I don't know how you feel, how anyone feels about doing the Zoom class while you're teaching in person. I find that very distracting, and I don't think that the people on Zoom always are able to see and get the lesson. How do you feel about that?
Even in English, having life group, it is hard when someone wants to, I'll call it beam in, when we have others there. So it's hard to manage both groups.
Right.
But I wanted to know how, you learned Zoom. What is the fastest way to become proficient in it? Is it just watching YouTube videos, or their tutorials?
You mean for Zoom?
Uh-huh.
Well, when you join Zoom, they tell you how, you know, you have breakout rooms, different things in the chat and the things that they can do with it. It's all by experiencing, trying it out. I try different things all the time, but your students pop up there and they're there, and they interact. But I'm sure you can watch some YouTube videos. I just went through the training of, you know, when you join Zoom, they give you these different things to watch. And then, you know, if you know anybody else that does Zoom, I do Zoom, our Bible study, my ladies' Bible study does it. And as you Zoom, and I've Zoom with different groups, you just get used to it and use it. And I pray a lot about activities. I found one great activity.
You have a good technology bent in a good way. So,
but you know, if it's not your thing, you know.
On the Zoom website, there's an option on the menu for a learning center, I think it's called, and they have a bunch of tutorials on there on how to use all the different features of Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom is a lot of support. That's where I kind of learned it, and I learned it from other people as well. But you always learn by doing, right? I always learn by doing. So any more questions? Do we have any more questions, concerns, or helps to someone that might? I took this from our text ESL training manual, and I always share this in our text training. We do have trained teachers. We have we're very excited. We have our new text training for ESL teachers. We have 3 hours online, and there's several sections. They're like 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You don't have to sit for the whole 3 hours to do all this learning, online learning. It's the learning that is not the activity part of our workshop. And so you can do it at leisure. You can do it one day, another day, another day. You can get together as a group of teachers that want to be trained and go through it together. There's lots of ways you can do the 3 hours online. And when you register, it's $25 for our text training workshop. You will get the link to that. You will also get a link to our manual. And in our manual we have 8 sections, and we have language learning, pronunciation, reading and writing. We have all these things in it. You have that available online. And then we have a in-person 4-hour in-person workshop, which is all hands-on, and it's a wonderful workshop. It's just interactive and fun, and you can bring your questions that maybe you had from the online training there, and the text trainers will address those. And then you'll have all this in-person hands-on training for 4 hours. It would be 7 hours, which we used to do all day Saturday. So you can imagine by you get to the end of Saturday afternoon, you're kind of on overload. This way you have the 3 hours that you can leisurely do, and you can always go back there. You think, oh dear, what did they say? And there's something I know I listened to and I can use in my classroom. You can go back to that. So this is our new workshop. We're very excited about it. And we're looking for host churches in the fall. We're trying to get one for June 11th in Fort Worth area, but mostly in August and September. If anybody's interested, if you have teachers that need training, this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for training. And this is from our training manual. ESL ministry is for those who are willing to give their time, help, hands, and hearts to people in need. It isn't one where you always see great results in a short period of time, but by building relationships and with patience, great things can happen in God's will and time. Students can progress from lower English levels to higher levels. God will use this ministry to spiritually change the language learner and the ministry worker. And that's true online or in person. And a verse that I'd like to share with you is, be strong and immovable. Always work enthusiastically for the Lord, for you know that nothing you do for the Lord is ever useless. And this is a real challenge to me. When I think about you don't always see results, don't get discouraged as you're teaching. Whether it's on Zoom or in person, don't get discouraged. I can remember I've been teaching ESL for over 23, 24 years. I started in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And in Albuquerque, I took the training and I said, Lord, where do you want us? And they said, we need somebody at the Baptist Neighborhood Center downtown. So I didn't have any books or anything. They said somebody used to teach it, but they quit. And so we would need somebody down there. So went down there. There were stacks and stacks of books. So I pulled out ones that I thought would be best. Went around the neighborhood, invited everybody, put flyers around, so excited, had refreshments, had a person to take care of the children because it was just a neighborhood center there. And nobody came the first night. So, well, we went around the neighborhood again the second time. The next week, no one showed up. The third week, one man showed up. Yay! We were so excited. And then that man told somebody else and somebody else and somebody else, and that grew to 3 classes down there at the Baptist Neighborhood Center. So I would always tell you that, you know, whatever we do for Lord, it is not useless. He will use us as long as we trust him. And most of all, if we are, don't give up, you know, just keep plodding on. And maybe you think it's, something happens, you have to teach on Zoom. And that's the way I felt. I thought, oh my goodness, I've got to do this. The Lord just helped me through it. And he's touching lives. And he's touching people around the world because of that. And I'm looking forward to the fall for the in-person classes when we can get together and have our classes and teach more English. So any other questions? We still have a few minutes here. I would like to just add to this. Lester called all over, all our contacts in different places, called all the churches and asked them what they were doing. If they were doing in person, were they doing Zoom, or if they just stopped their classes. And out of this one page that he had, the percentage was pretty good. That a lot of different ministries were in person. They kept in person. They did temperatures, they did masks, they had the clear mask like Jency said. Zoom was probably about half of that. And several others were doing both. And First Baptist Richardson, that was on my first workshop, she was saying they find it good to use both. They use Zoom for citizenship, different things, and then they have the in-person. And out of this whole sheet, there was only 2 that had done nothing at all. And I think we need to do something. And I'm so glad that people are using Zoom, that they are brave enough to do the in-person, and that we can teach English. We can reach out to those people that have this need of learning English and of joining in the community, that they know that somebody cares about them. I walked down the wall, down this hallway in our classes when they first started, probably the 2nd or 3rd year. And I heard the 2 students talking, and they were saying, "Why do you come here?" And she said, "Because they care about us." And that's what it is, caring about them. And I'll be glad to get back to the social life with our students. Any other questions? Anyone have anything to contribute about your classes? Anything in the chat? I do use PowerPoints, and they do homework, okay, on Zoom. And I'm going to use that because we had the church remodeled and they made 4 new rooms, and in each room there is a TV on the wall. And I find it very helpful. What we do is we go through the story, I pick out the vocabulary, and I make a PowerPoint of pictures. And all these pictures are a picture of the vocabulary. And I don't usually do just one picture for each vocabulary word, several pictures so that they understand what they are. And they do homework. We are using, I found it very successful on Zoom to use New Readers Press. And that's life. It's all about life, and it really helps them learn everyday things. And so they do their homework, and we meet 15 minutes early. If they want to go over their homework, we'll meet 15 minutes early so that they can do that. We don't do that in class, but if they want to come on earlier, we can go through it. I do email some, like for doing pronouns or something, and there's some exercises, I do email that to them. Online.
This is Jency again.
Hi, Jency.
I use on YouTube some Mark Cubic. He does very good English lessons, and sometimes I use it at the beginning while we're waiting, like 10 minutes or so, while we're waiting for everybody to come. And the students really like that. And then I give them the YouTube address if they want to practice at home with him. Are you familiar with that? Mark Cubic.
No, I'm not familiar with that one. I
It's
have
real
looked
good.
at several. A lot of them are from England, which they don't understand very well, but
He has a
looking for
clear
different ones.
voice.
Oh,
Yes.
good. Well,
Yes,
that's
and
a good one.
why I
Can you
like-
put that in the chat? Can you put that in the chat, Jency?
Sure. He has all levels too. All levels you can do with very beginner and all the way up. And I've been using him for a while. But I just use him for a little bit, before class. But then I give the students the address so they can practice with him. So, okay, I'll put that when we find the chat.
Right.
Okay.
And then Sharon says, what I like about Zoom teaching, fewer students at once, so more interaction. And Sharon, I find that a lot. The other night, we only had 4. They loved it. They talked so much. It was amazing. What I don't like about Zoom teaching, less attendance commitment from students. I find, I don't know what it is, either we have a whole lot or it's sort of up and down, which sort of happens in person as well. But we have our attendance keeps pretty steady on ours. So might look and see, do you, oops, Sharon, do you contact them and talk with them about it?
Hi, Karen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with the lack of consistency in attendance when we moved to Zoom in our program was that we changed the format from using the adventures curriculum to a more conversational format, which I think pedagogically is equally as valuable and perhaps more valuable. But I think to the students, it seems much less formal, and therefore they feel like it's much more optional. So it's more of a social outlet to them. And so it's just easier for them to take a pass if life has gotten busy for them that week. So
right. I understand.
Yeah,
I understand.
So it was, and then, because we had the flexibility to do smaller groupings with Zoom, we tended to have those smaller number of students. And then, if you've only got 2 or 3 to start with in your scheduled Zoom meeting, and 2 or 3 don't show up,
right.
Times we're
right.
That's disheartening to a teacher. And I didn't really know a good way to encourage consistency. So if you have some tips on how to encourage consistency and attendance in the Zoom setting, I'm sure we'd all be interested in that. I'll mute and let you talk.
Okay. What I do is I throw an email to them and ask them, can we pray for something? How are they doing? I try to contact them personally as far as attendance, and then they'll say, well, such and such happened and I was unable to come. I do recognize all our students' birthdays and things. I'll send them a card. I know one dropped out and didn't come for a while, and she got the birthday card and she was reminded, and she's had almost perfect attendance since then. I said, I guess I won't stop sending the birthday cards. You just never know. You have to just try different things, and sort of 50% is what they say as far as people staying with it. I've gone through our statistics, and we are at 70%, which I'm very excited about. Maybe do something, I do bingo on Zoom and they love it. I send them the bingo card, and boy, they all show up for the activity on bingo. Maybe some exciting things that'll draw them back. Does anybody else have any suggestions for Sharon?
This is Lori. I've even tried.
Hi, Lori.
Putting their names in a jar every time they come to class, in person, or I can do it on Zoom. And then at the end of a certain amount of time, I draw their name and they get some kind of prize. I know that's probably not the best thing to do, but sometimes it works.
No, they love that. They love that. I know one of our teachers does that in the in-person. They just love that.
And any age loves that.
Yeah, that's kind of why I do bingo, and they get points for what they do. And I use the bingo as, the vocabulary and or pronunciation, either one I'll use. So it's a teaching thing, but yet it's something to draw them there.
Yeah.